Just found a body in the old gym.
My daughter texted me and said they found a murdered student at Lowndes High just now in the basketball room. How horrible.
January 10th, 2014 marked 1 year since KJ Johnson's life had been tragically cut short. 2 autopsies, 4 investigations, and several lawsuits later, the Johnson family was no closer to finding peace than the night KJ didn't come home. The Johnson family held a memorial at John W. Sanders Park, the same location where the vigil was held in the previous year. Compared to 2013, 2014 would be relatively uneventful. On January 22, 2014, the deadline for the $10,000 reward that had been anonymously donated by a local businessman to the SCLC had passed, and it was returned to the donor by Reverend Floyd Rose. Reverend Rose stated that if no one had come forward by now, no one was going to. A significant portion of the updates in 2014 were lawsuits. On February 6, the Johnson family escalated their grievance against Harrington Funeral Home by filing a civil suit, citing the same list of accusations as they did in their complaint to the Secretary of State's office. The Johnsons were seeking unspecified financial damages.
Now to a CNN exclusive involving the death of that Georgia teenager found dead at his high school. Kendrick Johnson's body was found inside a rolled-up gym mat at his high school gym in Valdosta last January. The original Sheriff's Department investigation indicated he had died by accident, that he had suffocated after trying to reach for his shoe. But his parents never really bought that, and when they had his remains exhumed for an independent autopsy, they were shocked to learn his organs were missing and his body was stuffed with newspapers. Now they're suing. Victor Blackwell is the one who's been all over this, and so the news, they're suing the funeral home.
They are suing the funeral home, and for the Johnsons, there's no question now who discarded the organs of their son, Kendrick Johnson. They believe it's Harrington Funeral Home. I'm going to read straight from this 22-page complaint. It says that they believe that what the Harrington Funeral Home did was designed to deceive and perpetrate a fraud which was used to mislead and make it difficult to establish a true cause and manner of death. Now, you know, it's just a couple of weeks ago I was here to report that after an investigation from the Secretary of State's office, they found that it was not illegal to stuff a body with newspaper, and they couldn't determine who got rid of the organs. I sat down with Kenneth and Jacqueline Johnson, Kendrick's parents, just a few days ago, and here's their response and their reaction to that.
They're taking the focus off the real issue. The real issue is what happened to his organs. That's what we are most concerned about, what happened to Kendrick's organ. We're not, you know, they stuffed him with gold, but they still done something illegal. Where's his organ? That's what we are concerned about.
Also, you know, there's the question of clothing, because that's mentioned here.
The clothing he was wearing when he was found in the gym mat?
Absolutely. The T-shirt and the jeans and those socks, of course, that could offer some information if there's DNA from another person or hair the Johnsons were looking for.
Where is it?
No one knows. According to reports, the written reports from the transport company, the clothing was taken to the funeral home. I sat down with the attorney for the funeral home who says, yes, those clothes did make it to the funeral home. A couple of days later, I got an email saying, no, we never received the clothes. So those clothes also are missing. I reached out to the attorney for the funeral home. He says that he's not yet received this. They have not yet been served. We got it from the courthouse, and he says once they read through it, they'll respond. But the Johnsons are asking the jury to send a message. They want an award. They want a punishment so strong that it will deter any other funeral home or crematory or any agency that deals with the body
from doing this
ever again. Yeah.
Victor Blackwell, thank you.
Sure.
On May 13th, the Johnsons filed a wrongful death suit against the Lowndes County Board of Education. The suit alleged that on January 10th, 2013, Johnson, quote, was violently assaulted, severely injured, suffered great physical pain and mental anguish, and subjected to insult and loss of life. Speaking of lawsuits, let's circle back to some familiar figures. A lot has happened since we first introduced the rumor mill, but it has kept on turning in the background all the while. Since around May of 2013, when the GBI closed its investigation, the local gossip basin overflowed with venom towards Brian and Brandon Bell. Just in case you don't remember, these are who Eddie Tooley called the GBI agent sons that the Johnson family had accused basically from the beginning. The narrative had gone through several iterations since then. Brian and KJ had a simmering feud, that they had had several fights over the years, and that one of these fights had just gotten out of hand. Brian, along with his brother and possibly others, had either been involved in KJ's murder or helped cover it up. Since the Bell boys' father was an FBI agent, he, with the help of local law enforcement, the GBI, and everyone else involved, was covering up KJ's murder to protect the boys. In the months since the brothers were initially fingered by the Johnsons, Brian in particular, officials had collected enough exculpatory evidence to prove neither had been involved. They reported to local media and undoubtedly informed the Johnsons that Brian had been in class on the other side of the campus at the time KJ was last seen, and that Brandon wasn't even at the school. He was on a bus on the way to a wrestling tournament in Macon, Georgia, 150 miles away. These statements, however, seemed to fall on deaf ears. But just because their ears weren't working doesn't mean their fingers weren't hard at work contributing to the smear campaign against these two teenage boys. Quote, "When Brian Bell and his brother are found in the same style they found KJ Johnson, hopefully their family can be at ease with it being ruled a freak accident," one person posted on Facebook. "I can't wait for those boys to die." "Accident my ass," wrote another. "We'll get ya." On an unrelated note, on February 9, 2015, the Johnsons and their supporters held a prayer vigil outside the Lowndes County Courthouse to pray for kids who have had to endure cyberbullying. In February of 2014, Brian, Brandon, and Rick Bell were served with target letters from the DOJ. Finding a consistent definition of a target letter is difficult, but essentially, a target letter serves to inform an individual that they are being investigated for a crime and that there is sufficient evidence to consider an arrest probable. The issuing of a target letter also prevents the individual from testifying in front of a grand jury in their own defense, and it prohibits them from attending any grand jury hearings about them. On March 12, 2014, several of Brian's classmates were issued subpoenas to appear before a grand jury in Macon as part of the Department of Justice's investigation into possible civil rights violations. Exactly 1 week later, an anonymous email that had been sent to the sheriff's office on January 27, 2014, claiming to have information regarding KJ's case, was leaked to the press. The next day, March 20th, the sheriff's office declared that this email was investigated and had been a hoax. We will get into the email more later, but for right now, all I will say is that it implied a tryst between KJ and Brian Bell's current wife, at the time of the email current girlfriend, and at the time of KJ's death, only his friend. In April of 2014, the subpoenaed teens, including the aforementioned wife, girlfriend, friend of Brian, Taylor Eakin, were brought before a grand jury to testify. That was a long road to a segue back into the lawsuits, but on August 29, 2014, the Bell family filed a lawsuit of their own against Ebony magazine for defamation in regard to the series of fictionalized articles I mentioned briefly that Ebony had published, written by Fred Rosen. With that in mind, I do want to mention that all of the names in the article had been changed, but it was not difficult to decipher who the people behind the characters were. As if things for the Bells weren't heating up enough, on November 18, 2014, the Johnson family held a press conference in which they claimed that they had new information on the case. The new information was that they had gotten a hold of a requisition form. That form claimed that the bus Brandon Bell and the wrestling team were said to have taken to Macon did not leave the school until 4 p.m. The Johnsons pleaded for students and parents of students on the wrestling team to come forward and verify that the bus had not left yet by the time the police claimed Brandon was long gone. They believed this proved that the police did not do their due diligence in questioning all the students to verify the time that the bus had left and whether or not Brandon was actually on the bus. We'll go over the bus schedule in detail in a later episode. They also released a video, which was aired on CBS News, showing Brandon Bell in the hallway of the old gym the morning of the day that KJ went missing, proving that Brandon Bell had been at the school that day and even near the old gym, which neither the Bells nor the police had ever disputed. The Department of Justice investigation continued relatively quietly in the background, with small updates here and there. On November 19, 2014, Assistant U.S. Attorney Deborah Sines and criminal investigator Nelson Rohn took possession of the gym mat in which KJ was found. They also took audio copies of the 911 calls related to the case in the form of compact discs for the purpose of the DOJ investigation, and in December, prosecutors and investigators from the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. became involved in the investigation. January 10, 2015 marked the second anniversary of KJ's death, and protests were staged in front of the Lowndes High School. The crowd could be heard chanting things like, "You can't stop the revolution," and "We've got to fight back." During the protest, an activist in attendance said that Valdosta was now on the map in the same way that Ferguson was on the map, a reference to Ferguson, Missouri, where waves of violence followed the shooting death of a black teen, Michael Brown, by a white police officer. I hope you didn't think we were done with lawsuits in 2014. On January 15th, 2015, the Johnsons filed their first lawsuit of the year, a $100 million lawsuit against 38 defendants. We'll provide all the details later, but you're going to want to come prepared with a blankie and a juice box for that episode because it is a doozy. But for now, I'll just say that all 5 local Superior Court judges for Lowndes County recused themselves because they worked with and were close colleagues of many of the defendants named in the lawsuit. The suit had to be slated and moved to Ohio. On March 9th, 2015, the Bell family countersued the Johnson family. I will put this gently for now and just say public response to the countersuit was venomous. On April 6, 2015, a group calling themselves Community Atlanta held a protest outside Lowndes County High School. They demanded that the school hold a 4-minute moment of silence for KJ Johnson to represent the 4 days that it had taken for them to walk from Atlanta to Valdosta. They wanted KJ's sister Kenyatta to walk for KJ at the upcoming graduation ceremony and accept his honorary diploma. They were told by the principal of the school that Georgia does not give out honorary diplomas. When the school experienced backlash for this, the sheriff intervened and said the same thing. 5 of the protesters ended up being arrested after they refused to leave school grounds when directed to do so by the Lowndes County Sheriff's officers. One of the few appearances of Sheriff Prine speaking with the press happened at this protest.
If they want to address anything to do with Kendrick Johnson, in this case, they can address it by U.S. mail.
An Atlanta, Georgia television station reported during the weekend that Community Atlanta pushed for Johnson's sister to be able to accept the honorary diploma for KJ because controversy surrounding the case prevented her from walking with her class. Superintendent Wes Taylor said that was not true. Local sheriffs and police departments had already planned to have security at the high school graduation ceremony on May 23, 2015, which would have been the day that KJ received his diploma, because of anticipated protests at the event. In an announcement to the press, Valdosta Police Department Police Chief Brian Childress made it clear that all of the officers attending from the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, the Valdosta Police Department, and the Georgia State Police would be wearing body cams and recording all interactions between police and protesters during the graduation ceremonies. The video of each arrest, if there were any, would be made public. Childress said, quote, "I'm not going to have people make outrageous allegations. I'm going to release it to the media and put it on our Facebook page." Childress also added, quote, "I hope Saturday is a good time for those kids. I am also going to say a prayer for KJ Johnson because, just like these other kids, KJ should have been able to graduate, and I grieve with his family." Marcus Coleman told the Valdosta Daily Times that representatives of the Nation of Islam's security arm, the Fruit of Islam, are planning to attend Saturday's protest to provide security due to what Coleman described as a racially charged climate in Valdosta. We're going to take a little detour here to discuss Eric Shepard, and the detour will begin with a 21st century phenomenon known as the challenge, currently all the rage on the social media app TikTok. In 2015, Twitter spawned the Eric Shepard Challenge, which was to post a video of yourself stomping on or dancing on or burning the American flag. The hashtag and challenge were inspired by the new Black Panther Party extremist Eric Shepard. On April 17, 2015, Shepard was attending a protest on the Valdosta State University campus, where he was recorded trampling on an American flag. Several screenshots of challenge videos are available on a crowdfunding support page for Shepard, which has since been closed. In the days following the protest, police found an abandoned backpack on campus. The backpack was linked to Shepard, after police were able to track down a purchase receipt for a handgun that was inside. An arrest warrant was issued for bringing a weapon into a school safety zone, and Eric Shepard went on the run. The challenge was created as a show of support while Shepard was hiding from the police. I read a few things that said he was in trouble for desecrating the flag, but the Supreme Court has upheld the First Amendment right to freedom of speech with regards to the flag desecration so many times now that laws against it are basically meaningless. When the warrant was issued, Shepard was allegedly already under investigation by the FBI for terroristic threats he had made on social media, including YouTube videos and his manifesto. This is a clip of Eric Shepard speaking at the university protest.
The meaning, I want y'all to focus on me. I know what she's saying. The meaning, The meaning for the stepping on the flag was that that flag represents white supremacy, racism, which is plaguing the entire earth. You see? So when we step on that flag, we're stepping on racism, white supremacy. We're stepping on those things that mean that were erected alongside our genocide and our Holocaust. We're releasing those chains from our mental capacity and from our physical capacity. It was Africans who brought civilization to Europe twice. Once under the Egyptians, we were bringing in the Greeks and the Romans, and then the second time under the Black Moors, who were bringing in and truly establishing the elaboration of civilization. So that's why we step on that flag, because that flag represents lies, it represents deceit, it represents the glory of white people that they like to put forth. And here's the thing, you can see the psychosis of Europeans where they value the menial things and not the grander things. Where are we at? We're in Valdosta, Georgia, right? Kendrick Johnson's death was covered up. So you care more about a cloth on the ground and me stepping on it with a boot than a black man's death. You're out your fucking mind. White people have been out their fucking mind ever since they stepped out of Europe. So that's what it is.
The majority of Shepard's dangerous rhetoric came from his writings. His social media posts made multiple threats to open fire on civilians in an attack emulating the Boston Marathon bombings. I'm going to share a few excerpts from his manifesto, which he sent to the Valdosta Daily Times while he was on the run. The entire 15-page manifesto will be up on our Patreon for those of you who are interested in reading it. It is disturbing and potentially upsetting. He speaks extensively about what he believes should happen to white infants, for example, and none of it is pleasant. Quote, "Many still question the possibility of my surrendering to the people who call themselves authorities. To give you a simple answer, no. I will not turn myself over to any white man, and I will ensure this with my own will to self-defend and to annihilate those who come after me. We sent you messengers bearing the message in peace. You have discarded the message and killed or attempted to kill the messengers, but now the army of God has been awakened and will only deliver the edict of death upon your heads. You have had 400 years to take heed to warning. Now you will learn by example. This is indeed a call to action for every African revolutionary on the planet to kill all white devils and reclaim your rightful position as righteous rulers. You are a cancer. You're a disease. White males have never contributed anything positive to the world. They only murder, exploit, and oppress non-whites. At least a white woman can have sex with a black man and make a brown baby, but what can a white male do? He's good for nothing. Yes, I am connected to the Kendrick Johnson case simply by our identical social circumstances of being born in the hells of the pinnacle of white supremacy, America. He was crucified, and so you all seek to do the very same to me. Despite what that murderous lying bastard Brian Childress has stated, this is the truth. As for that lying, deceitful, crooked bastard named Brian Childress, know that if you do not come clean about the corruption which you have helped to perpetuate, especially in regards to the murder of Kendrick Johnson, then you will be put to death. Prines and others, especially for their recent actions, will join you also. You had some nerve to come on Fox News and profess that you all did not want to hurt me. Kraka, do you think I would trust your words and much less your actions given your personal track record of corruption? Hell no. When my people descend upon that hellish pit on May 23rd for commemoration of Kendrick Johnson's life, and if they are met with even the slightest inclination of resistance by any pale-skinned beast or aid, they are more than justified to take your head and post it on a stake for the entire world to see. Now that May 23rd is a reference to the graduation. As I mentioned, we took a bit of a detour, but the reason Eric Shepard became a person of note with regards to this case is because KJ's graduating class had to experience the ceremony with anti-sniper police officers in the crowd and helicopters overhead, because there was a significant concern that Eric Shepard and or his supporters would launch an attack on the graduation after Kenyatta Johnson had been denied permission to walk in KJ's place and accept the honorary diploma. There was specific concern for, you guessed it, Brian Bell, who, in case you forgot, was in the same grade as KJ. Earlier we mentioned that the school refused to have KJ's memorial take place on school grounds. That was because even that early in the case there were already threats of violence flooding in and concerns that the memorial may turn into a riot on the school. I'm sure there were extensive talks about canceling graduation. Fortunately for those hardworking students, graduation concluded without any incidents. A belated congratulations to the Lowndes High School class of 2015. That day should have been about you. Eric Shepard was apprehended by police before the end of May and ended up pleading guilty to 1 count of carrying a weapon in a school safety zone. No additional charges were brought for the manifesto. He was sentenced to 3 years probation, a $2,000 fine, and 120 hours of community service. He owed $1,036 in restitution to Lowndes County, and he was banned from the Valdosta State campus. In 2017, Shepard violated his probation by traveling to Texas, where he made harassing phone calls to an unknown person. In 2018, he landed himself back in jail after strangling a woman and preventing another woman from calling 911, and that seems to be the most recent update on his whereabouts. All I know for sure is that he is not currently in federal prison. Remember how I mentioned that the DOJ was quietly puttering around their investigation in the background? Well, their quiet puttering was replaced with an ear-splitting rampage on July 21st, 2015 at 5 o'clock in the morning. SWAT teams in full tactical gear suddenly raided the homes of Taylor Eakin and her family, Rick and Karen Bell, and both of the Bell boys who were away at college in different states. The SWAT team seized their hard drives, cell phones, and other electronic equipment. On July 23, 2015, they also raided the home of another young man, Ryan Hall, and seized his electronics. Ryan Hall has a huge influence over how the investigation plays out, and we will be talking about him quite a bit in future episodes. On July 23, 2015, the U.S. Attorney also seized all correspondence and emails from the Lowndes County investigators pertaining to the boring but aptly named, I guess, KJ case. After the raid, Jackie Johnson took to her Facebook page to announce that the raids happened because a witness for the DOJ had been harassed by Rick Bell at work, and reported to the DOJ she was feeling threatened. If you're anything like me, you're sitting here thinking, what does being bothered at work have to do with seizing electronics? But that's all the public would get for a while, and so will you. We'll get into exactly how this all played out a bit later. In August 2015, still feeling the aftershock of the raids, the Bell boys did their only on-camera interview to date. In total, we have about 10 minutes of testimony, and that might be all we're ever going to get, so listen close.
Now, a Channel 2 Action News investigation into the mystery surrounding the death of a Valdosta teenager found in an upright gym mat at school. 2 young men at the focus of the Kendrick Johnson controversy have declined to talk to investigators, a grand jury, and an on-camera interview until now. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie live outside FBI headquarters in DeKalb County with these exclusive interviews. Mark?
And at last check, this case remained a focus of federal investigation. But we are outside the FBI's Atlanta field office because that is where we're told Agent Rick Bell was assigned, and both his sons are the subject of target letters from a federal prosecutor. And now we hear from them at last.
I'm going to ask my photographer to push in tight on your face.
Okay.
Our viewers can read your expression. Did you have anything to do with the death of Kendrick Johnson?
No. He was like one of my good friends.
Even at the time of his death?
Even at the time of his death.
You know, every word we broadcast of this is going to be scrutinized by the blogosphere, the Twitter sphere, and so on.
Yes, sir. It should be. And I want everybody to know the truth. And I mean, they can ridicule me and they can say whatever they want, but in the end, the truth will prevail. And everybody will find that me and my brother have been innocent and always will be innocent.
We've just heard what family attorneys acknowledge sheriff's deputies, the GBI, and a federal grand jury have not heard. Brothers Brian and Brandon Bell answering questions, no holds barred, about the mysterious death of Kendrick Johnson in 2013.
He was the laughter of our house. He was the joy of our house, and he gives us strength to keep fighting.
The Lowndes County Sheriff says after a thorough investigation, his office agrees with the state medical examiner that Johnson's death was an accident due to positional asphyxia, that he wedged himself in a rolled-up gym mat trying to reach a shoe and could not get out. But Kendrick Johnson's mom takes issue with that.
Are you more convinced today than ever that KJ was a victim of foul play?
Yes.
And with some of what the Bells say.
No, they weren't friends.
And in a lawsuit, Johnson's parents allege a group, including the Bell brothers, sons of an FBI agent, violently assaulted their son, leading to his death.
None of the allegations that were made were without research.
But both Bells maintain they have rock-solid alibis.
Did you see Kendrick Johnson?
No, sir, not at any point during that day.
Where were you?
I was in class. First block, second block, third block, and fourth block.
close to the gym?
No.
Did you see Kendrick that day?
No. I did not.
The suit suggests the brothers sought revenge for a brief fight between Brian and Kendrick on a team bus.
A year before, I mean,
What was
we're
that
still
about,
friends.
anyway?
So I can't even remember. I mean, it was so small to us, like it was ridiculous.
Your brother had a football scholarship offered to FSU.
Yes, sir, he did.
They pulled it back.
On signing day.
So how low did you get?
To the lowest you can go.
Letters from the Macon U.S. Attorney's Office suggest both Bells are targets of grand jury investigation. The letters suggest possible civil rights violations.
My objective is to only get justice for my son.
Have you prayed for the Johnsons?
Yes, sir. I have. I hope that they found justice, and I hope that they do find out the truth about their son.
I pray for the truth to come out about what happened to my son.
Now, there's lots more. These interviews were extensive. No lawyers present, no parents present. We plan to have a lot of all new excerpts coming up on Channel 2 Action News at 6, including both Bell brothers talking about federal search warrants executed at their residences in recent weeks and what searchers may have been after. For now, I'm live outside FBI Atlanta headquarters in DeKalb County. Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
From these interviews that you obtained, Mark, to some of the details in the case, so much in here is unusual to say the least. And right now on our Facebook page, we've posted a link to Mark's story. Click on it to get interviews with these brothers, their mother, and the mother of Kendrick Johnson. Two sons of an FBI agent are describing raids on their residences in recent weeks in connection with an investigation into the death of a Valdosta high school student found rolled up in a gym mat. And their mother says they have not spoken to prosecutors, police, or the grand jury. But now they've talked to Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie. Mark live in DeKalb County with excerpts from those interviews that are new since 5. Mark.
That's right. We are live outside the Atlanta field office of the FBI. We are told that is where the father of Brian and Brandon Bell was assigned, though he worked out of Valdosta. But it was another federal agency that apparently showed up at his son's residences recently.
This is where they knocked the morning of around 5 a.m. You can see the scuff marks from the shoes as the U.S. Marshals knocked.
I was laying in bed. I got a bang on my door.
Tactical gear?
Yes, sir, to the nth degree.
They were just like, it's about the Kendrick Johnson case, the ongoing Kendrick Johnson investigation.
Brandon Bell says what he and brother Brian Bell woke up to in two different rental places July 21st was worse than a bad dream. Deputy U.S. Marshals serving search warrants in connection with the mysterious death of Kendrick Johnson at Lowndes High School in 2013.
I was just really shocked.
I broke down and cried.
I really had no reason in my head why they would be here.
It just keeps on getting worse.
One might imagine Kendrick Johnson's mom feels like she's in a nightmare that won't end.
Kendrick gives me strength. You know, he was our baby. He was my son.
The Lowndes County Sheriff says after a thorough investigation, his office agrees with the state medical examiner that Johnson's death was an accident due to positional asphyxia, that he wedged himself in a rolled-up gym mat trying to reach a shoe and could not get out.
I would imagine practically every one of your viewers sat scratching their head.
And a lawsuit by Johnson's parents alleges a group including the Bell brothers, sons of an FBI agent, violently assaulted their son, leading to his death.
My only angle is to find justice for my son.
But the Bell civil attorneys, Patrick O'Connor and Bryce Ladson, say the July 21st search warrants sought text messages, emails, and the like relevant to alleged witness tampering and obstruction of justice.
Is it possible you were involved in any witness tampering or obstruction?
No, sir, in no possible way whatsoever.
Have you obstructed justice in any way?
No.
Have you tampered with any witnesses? Tried to influence anybody, tried to stop somebody from talking in the Kendrick Johnson investigation?
No.
Where our viewers can look in your eyes, did you have anything to do with the death of Kendrick Johnson?
No, sir. Nor me or my family had anything to do with his death.
Both Bells maintain they have rock-solid alibis.
Where were you?
I was in class.
Videos, pictures, and theories abound online about what happened, some involving school surveillance video. We talked to Brandon Bell about his appearance.
I was changing clothes before I had to leave for the wrestling tournament that we were going to. And I went in there to check my weight the first time. I changed, and then the shirt that was assumed to have blood on it, that they had circled and said blood, it actually said RLX. It's a type of polo.
How's it feel to get your side out?
Great. Because I finally, we've just been sitting here. Not just letting everybody else talk. You know, it's our time to talk.
Now, a March 2013 document in the file suggests an attorney told the sheriff's office that after consulting with the father of Brian and Brandon Bell, he advised them not to make a statement. We are posting extensive raw video at WSBTV.com, and tomorrow on Channel 2 Action News at 5, video identified as a raid on the home of FBI agent Rick Bell, and what his wife has to say about whether the level of force on display was appropriate under the circumstances. Remember, that's tomorrow on Channel 2 Action News at 5. Reporting live outside FBI headquarters in DeKalb County, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
We were unable to find any further segments from this series of videos. Just a few days before the deposition hearings began for the Bells' countersuit against the Johnsons, the DOJ requested a pause in the civil suit until they'd completed their investigation, but the judge rejected it, saying the Bells have the right to defend themselves. In November of 2015, the depositions for the Johnsons' $100 million lawsuit began. The amount of information contained in these depositions is staggering, and we'll be diving into them in an upcoming episode. November 23, 2015, District Attorney Michael Moore suddenly resigned and left the U.S. Attorney's Office. In the Valdosta Daily Times, it was reported that he left without releasing the findings of the school surveillance video to the Johnsons, which he had allegedly promised to do. The investigation was moved to Ohio. Coincidentally, Brian Bell was living in Ohio at the time, attending the University of Akron.
I'm proud, obviously, of big cases we've done. I mean, I can tell you there are certain things, certainly the recent one with the sex trafficking. I'm proud those 15 ladies are out of a life of misery. But I'm proud, too, of the things that nobody will ever know about. Maybe where we stopped a wrong from happening, or we righted a wrong before it became catastrophic for somebody. I'm proud that we, as an office, saw the benefit in making sure that the power of the Department of Justice and the power of the U.S. Attorney's Office wasn't abused. So those things, to me, I'll take with me. And I think that's how an office should run. You know, I think that your prosecutor is really the gatekeeper for the court system and for the justice system. And if you're not willing to keep the gate, then that means nothing. And so, you know, it's the stuff that nobody will read about in the paper, but that I know that we came together and did as an office.
A couple months later, January 31st, 2016, the U.S. attorney who was handling the KJ case in Ohio, Stephen M. Dettelbach, also resigned, but said that the investigation was ongoing. In March of 2016, the Johnson family withdrew their $100 million wrongful death lawsuit that had named 38 people as defendants, and the defendants countersued the Johnsons for legal fees. It is unclear exactly why they withdrew the lawsuit, however, we may be able to guess based on an update that I will cover shortly. The estimate of the legal fees at the time was $800,000. On June 20th, 2016, about 6 months after Stephen Dettelbach resigned, the Department of Justice ended their investigation, saying that there was just not enough evidence to support any criminal charges. This was the fourth investigation to reach the same finding.
A very disappointing day for the parents of Kendrick Johnson, 3.5 years after the 17-year-old was found dead in his high school gym.
We know something happened to Kendrick Johnson. We know he was murdered.
Kendrick Johnson's parents say they're not giving up on either civil or criminal charges in his 2013 death. They say federal prosecutors told them there was not enough evidence to pursue a criminal case, but they still believe he was murdered by schoolmates. Investigators in Valdosta ruled he died of accidental asphyxiation when he got stuck in a rolled-up gym mat while trying to retrieve a shoe. And Monday, the Johnsons said federal prosecutors didn't entirely rule out that possibility. They simply concluded there was not enough evidence to prove it.
And they all but came out and said they know he was murdered, but nothing to be done about it.
The Johnsons withdrew 2 civil lawsuits filed against a lot of people who were associated with the case. They now do have the option of refiling those. Back to you.
Well, this investigation into Kendrick Johnson's death has stretched now for 3 years. It began in January of 2013 when Johnson's body was found in the Lowndes County High School gym. In October of that year, the U.S. Attorney's Office opened a formal investigation. Then, in July of 2014, the Johnson family filed a wrongful death suit against the high school, saying that Johnson was, in fact, murdered. That civil suit is still pending, but the lack of criminal charges today is a major setback for the family.
Things are going to move pretty fast from here on out this episode. It's been 3 years and 4 investigations. Interest is fizzling, and backing for the Johnsons is drying up. In October of 2015, Benjamin Crump sent a letter to Jacqueline and Kenneth Johnson informing them that his firm would not be continuing their support of the family in partnership with Shaveen King. Crump said that the Georgia State Bar would not grant him special permission to continue to represent the Johnsons in Georgia. CNN later reported that according to the Georgia State Bar, there was no objection to Crump's application to represent the Johnsons. Make no mistake, we are just getting started, but the timeline condenses significantly over the next few years. In 2016, a video was released claiming to be from Anonymous, a hacktivist collective known for launching cyber attacks against corrupt entities. The video, which boasted heavy support for the Johnson family, was about 10 minutes long, and clips were played on several major news networks across the country. The full video will be available on our Patreon, but the following is an abridged clip from that video.
Greetings world, we are Anonymous. On the evening of January 10, 2013, 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson, a sophomore at Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia, was reported missing by his mother Jackie. The gym mat shoe theory doesn't work. There is no way a teenager would dive headfirst into a mat propped up in the corner of the gym to get a shoe, while holding his headphones in his hand. If alone, it is impossible that his sneakers would end up on top of him. KJ's shoes were most likely taken off of him so his killers could more easily fit his body into the mat while rolling it up. From the very start, these experts said there was hours missing from the cameras right outside the gym. With all the discrepancies of evidence, testimonies, and witnesses, we call bullshit on the official story. So has the federal prosecutor who opened an investigation in October 2013. Brian and KJ had fought before, and the Johnson family are suing Lowndes County School District for not protecting KJ from being bullied by the Bell brothers on campus. Adam Floyd is the main writer assigned to the Kendrick Johnson case for the Valdosta Daily Times and is the creator of the Kendrick's Last Walk video on YouTube, as well as providing a timeline for KJ's disappearance. You should know that Adam Floyd was a teacher at Lowndes High School when KJ was killed. There is a cover-up of mass proportions in Valdosta, Georgia. There is no way that the official story could be the truth. KJ was found beaten and bloody, stuffed inside of a mat that he could have gotten out of. Some black students were told they were not allowed to be interviewed by law enforcement. Administration at Lowndes High School told students if they talked, their graduation would be threatened. The people of Valdosta know a cover-up has taken place and that local law enforcement will harass and arrest them for providing false statements. The people are afraid of the backlash if they come forward. The time has come for those people to join the fight for justice. Expose the corrupt for who they are. Expose the racism that is alive and well in Valdosta. The time has come to stand against the oppressors and fight for the truth. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Lowndes County, Georgia, you should have expected us.
One of our sources that has investigated this case extensively, who has requested to remain anonymous, told us they tracked the video down to its source and discovered that it was not a legitimate anonymous video, just a clever forgery. But we unfortunately have no proof of that. On August 18, 2016, a judge ruled that the Johnson family were responsible to pay some of the attorney's fees of the people who had been named in their previous lawsuit, which they had withdrawn. The amount would be determined later. However, on August 23rd, the Johnson family refiled their previous lawsuit, only this time they named a total of 42 defendants. The new federal filing named as defendants Lowndes County Sheriff Chris Prine, Rick, Brian, and Brandon Bell, Lowndes County School Superintendent Wes Taylor, multiple agents of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, including James Thornton, who's been the head investigator for the GBI, former Valdosta Police Chief Frank Simons, various members of the Sheriff's Office and the local crime lab, the Lowndes County School District, and Steve Owens of Owens Transport. If you're scratching your head and thinking, who the heck is Steve Owens? Who the heck is Frank Simons? How am I supposed to keep up with all these names you're throwing at me? You are not alone. During deposition, a lawyer went through the list of defendants and asked Kenneth Johnson about each one, if he knew them, if he knew why they were being sued, and if he would recognize them if they walked into the room. For most of them, the answer was no. Steve Owens and Owens Transport have not been mentioned until now, but make no mistake, they will be mentioned again later. The company was responsible for transporting KJ's body from the crime lab to the funeral home and unwittingly became involved in the controversy due to the missing clothing and organs. The lawsuit brought claims against various defendants of wrongful death, intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of plaintiff's right to due process under state law, fraud through statements and silence, conspiracy and wrongful death, and a plaintiff's petition for injunctive relief, among other claims. On January 13, 2017, the civil lawsuit that the Johnsons had filed was amended to say that KJ had a, quote, special relationship with the school. What that meant was that the school was supposed to supervise KJ more closely as a protective measure following the fight on the school bus on November 19, 2011. The suit accused the Lowndes County School District of failing to properly monitor the activities of students throughout all areas of the Lowndes High School campus. It asserted that the Lowndes High School staff is inadequately trained on supervising students and protecting them from assault or harassment by other students, making a clear case for negligence on their part. On June 14, 2017, the Johnsons' lawsuit was dismissed without prejudice because their lawyer had not filed all the necessary documents. For anyone who isn't familiar with dismissal with versus without prejudice, a suit dismissed with prejudice cannot be refiled. The matter is closed for good. A suit filed without prejudice can be refiled as soon as you get your ducks in a row, Shaveen King. On July 11, 2017, they filed the lawsuit again. On August 8, 2017, the Johnsons and their lawyer were ordered to pay $292,102 in attorney fees to those that they accused of KJ's murder and those that they alleged covered it up. On March 28, 2018, the Johnson family lost an appeal to have the fees that they owed to their defendants for legal costs waived. The Johnsons are paying this amount a little at a time to this day. On December 24, 2017, the Johnsons filed for a permit to exhume KJ's body for a second time in order for a third autopsy to be performed. Despite having a judge's order for the first exhumation, according to the Georgia Department of Public Health website, all that's required to disinter a body is a permit issued by the local registrar, so a judge's order was not required. 6 months later, it was reported in the Valdosta Daily Times that the exhumation date was set. When asked why the Johnsons were doing this again, Kenneth Johnson stated that they were
going to find out exactly how KJ died. We will not let no one sweep this under the rug as he died as an accident.
When asked by reporters, the Johnsons refused to reveal who was going to be performing the autopsy. On June 22, 2018, KJ's remains were exhumed for a second time. The Johnsons live-streamed the exhumation. On November 15, 2018, the results of the third autopsy done on KJ Johnson were released, and it was announced that Dr. William Anderson, who had done the second autopsy, also did the third autopsy.
A third autopsy could open a new investigation into the death of Kendrick KJ Johnson. Now, January 11, 2013, the 17-year-old Lowndes High School student, his body was found rolled up in a gym mat on campus. His death was originally called a tragic accident by investigators, but his parents firmly held on to the belief that he was murdered. In June of 2013, Johnson's body was exhumed for a second independent autopsy. Those results showed Johnson died from, quote, unexplained apparent blunt force trauma, end quote. Now tonight, WLB News 10's Damon Arnold has that third autopsy report in hand. He joins us live in the studio to break down what this new report could mean for that case. Damon?
That's right, Jim. I have that third autopsy here in my hand that continues to combat the original report from the GBI autopsy that stated Kendrick KJ Johnson died from accidental positional asphyxia. In the case of Kendrick KJ Johnson, the results are finally in after 2 exhumations and 3 autopsies. The third and current autopsy Dr. William Anderson conducted with forensics dimensions revealed blunt force trauma to Johnson's right thorax, known as the right chest, which he calls unexplained apparent non-accidental blunt force trauma. Anderson's report states an area of discoloration reveals possible hemorrhage, the escape of blood from a rupture into what's described as the inner rib area. Added in that report was the possible hemorrhaging near the jaw. The original report from the GBI autopsy states that KJ died from accidental positional asphyxia. Dr. Anderson also performed the second independent autopsy. KJ was exhumed back on June 22nd. The family has taken the autopsy report, some documented conversations, and affidavits to the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, hoping to have the case reopened.
Anderson reaffirmed his previous findings that KJ had indeed died of blunt force trauma. Though he did not create a new autopsy report, he added an addendum to his previous one, claiming that he also had discovered a possible hemorrhage to Johnson's right thorax, which means the right side of his torso where his ribs are. On December 28, 2018, the Johnson family and their lawyers held a press conference saying that they felt there was more than enough information to prove that KJ was murdered and were demanding a coroner's inquest to be opened into the case. They said that they wanted to let a jury decide and to take it out of the hands of government officials.
Tonight, new developments were revealed in a case we've been following in Valdosta for 6 years. Kendrick Johnson's family today said a third autopsy that they had performed shows that Johnson, who was found dead in a Lowndes High School gym mat in 2013, suffered additional blunt force trauma injuries. Now, that third autopsy says he died from non-accidental blunt force trauma injuries, which contradicts the findings of the first autopsy that was performed by law enforcement. The first autopsy found the cause of death was positional asphyxia. Now there's a petition to present their findings in front of a jury. Albany attorney Shaveen King, representing Kenneth and Jacqueline Johnson, KJ's parents, say they're trying to compel the Lowndes County Coroner's Office to conduct a coroner's inquest. This is a process where evidence is presented to a jury in chronological order, and that jury would then decide whether foul play was connected in the Johnson death. According to King, it's the coroner's legal responsibility to the plaintiffs. King says that the outcome of the hearing will address many of those unanswered questions.
We think that the outcome is what may send a signal to those in law enforcement that what has been done is no longer acceptable.
Lowndes County Coroner Austin Fiveash, listed on the petition, says he has yet to review this motion, so he cannot comment at this time. The former Lowndes County Coroner, Wilbur Watson, cannot be reached.
On August 7, 2018, Kenneth and Jacqueline Johnson filed a complaint with the Valdosta police against Karen Bell for sending them harassing text messages and emails. After a brief investigation, the police determined that this complaint had no merit, but we'll talk about it more later. In mid-2019, the Johnsons' lawsuit against Harrington Funeral Home was settled out of court, and they were awarded an unknown settlement. Details of the settlement, including whether Harrington accepted any responsibility for the missing organs, have not been released. On October 11, 2019, the Johnson family held a press conference in which Marcus Coleman publicly requested that the federal government investigate KJ's death and made a personal request to President Donald Trump to head an investigation. Don't hold your breath. Nothing comes of this.
For years, a South Georgia family has maintained their son was murdered inside his high school. The body was found in a rolled-up gym mat. You know the story very well by now. Investigators say they believe that he died after he became stuck in the mat while trying to retrieve his shoe. But today, Kendrick Johnson's family came to Atlanta to demand that his case be reopened. Nick Sturdivant spoke to them.
This week, he would have celebrated his 24th birthday.
Hurt, grief every day. It's even hard some days to get out of bed. People just don't understand what they took when they took our child.
But Friday, Kendrick Johnson's family and supporters gathered outside the federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta in hopes of opening a new chapter in his death investigation.
July 20th, 2016, the federal investigation into Kendrick Johnson was closed. We are calling on the new administration to review the findings and reopen the federal investigation into Kendrick Johnson. We're also calling for a reopening of the state investigation.
And also hoping that under President Donald Trump, they can get answers.
Which is why we're calling on this current administration, one that seems to understand that there's some corruption at the federal level. Can the President of the United States help? Absolutely. Will he help is a whole nother story.
It has been nearly 7 years since Johnson's body was found in a rolled-up gym mat at Lowndes High School, about 200 miles south of Atlanta. Investigators ruled his death as an accidental asphyxiation after he got stuck in the mat while trying to retrieve a shoe. His family, on the other hand, believes he was murdered by schoolmates. His parents contend that their son's clothes and organs, including his brain, were disposed of to interfere with the investigation.
I mean, just the blatant disrespect, the overt labeling of ignorance that they had on this family to think that they were just gonna take that, and they ain't laid down since.
Earlier this year, they refiled a lawsuit and also contend that a 2016 meeting with the federal government to present the findings of the case was carried out without legal representation.
We are still going forward, fighting for justice.
So justice, or a form of it, would be someone held responsible.
The family says that they plan to send a letter to the Department of Justice and to reach out to the president as well. A federal investigation in 2016 found there was not enough evidence to support criminal charges.
On January 10, 2020, the 7th anniversary of KJ's death, Jackie Johnson made the following statement to the press.
I stand bold and firm to what I say. I mean just what I say, and I'm not backing down to anybody when it comes to KJ Johnson because y'all should have left him alone. At the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, God allowed me to birth him. Nobody had no right to take his life.
In early 2020, the Bells finally settled with Ebony Magazine. The judge had ordered Ebony Magazine to pay them $50 million, but they settled for $500,000. Part of the settlement included that the series of articles written by Fred Rosen were to be destroyed and removed from the internet. The articles had been successfully buried until now. As part of our investigation into this case, we were fortunate enough to sit down with Sheriff Ashley Polk, elected in 2016, officially displacing Chris Prine. He had promised during his campaign to reopen the KJ Johnson investigation and honored his word once elected. In 2020, the Valdosta Daily Times printed a letter that Polk had sent to the Department of Justice requesting all of the files from their investigation. The letter clearly showed that the request was denied. The sheriff had stated that he wrote several letters requesting these files over the previous 5 years.
I started requesting the federal files because the federal people had done all this work, Department of Justice and the FBI. And I requested files and actually got the Johnsons to write a joint letter with me. We composed it together and asked for it, and we got a denial, so they would not give it to us.
On September 19, 2020, armed protesters marched in downtown Valdosta, shouting popularized chants like "Ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people won't stop." The protest was organized by the Revolutionary Black Panther Party, a black nationalist self-proclaimed continuation of the Black Panther Party established in 1992. The protesters called for justice and reparations for the family of KJ Johnson and demanded that the case be reopened.
The Johnsons do a protest march every year on the date. And, year before last, they had some Black Panthers down from Atlanta, 10 or 12 of them, and they were going to do a march around the courthouse and a couple of blocks downtown. And some of my merchants said, "We'll just close." And I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "This is in Atlanta." And I walked over to they had the Black Panthers, and of course they can legally carry guns, armed in Georgia. And I walked over and told him, I said, somebody harasses you or tries to hurt you, we will protect you. I said, that's my job. I said, but if you try to pull it in Atlanta and you try and break a glass or break the law or have obscenities of people or point a gun at somebody, we'll lock you up. I said, the law applies to everybody in this county. This is not Atlanta. And I said, I hope you understand. It's not threatening you. I'm just telling you how I do business. Well, they took one lap around the block, came over and told me, he says, well, I think we'll go back to Atlanta. I mean, I just tell them how it is and the people are going to back me. And the interesting thing about it, there's probably 50 to 100 black people came over there and sat with me when they marched. They said that we we're not going to let them hurt you. I don't carry a weapon. I don't even wear a gun. He said, but this was mostly black females, African-American females, that came down to support the sheriff's office. We have a good relationship with them.
On March 8, 2021, Sheriff Polk announced that he was reopening the investigation into KJ Johnson's death. After years of asking, the family and the sheriff, with the help of others, had finally obtained all of the Department of Justice's investigative findings in the KJ case. This amounted to 17 boxes of papers and computer equipment.
All right, we want to turn now to our top story. A family full of heartbreak, confusion, and agony is reacting this morning after the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office reopened the case of their loved one, Kendrick Johnson. The teenager found dead, rolled up inside a gym mat back in 2013. A family spokesperson says the past few years have been tough. Johnson's death was originally ruled accidental, but things could change. There are now more questions surrounding the high-profile case. Mara Siriani joining us live from GBI headquarters this morning. And Mara, Kendrick's mother says she's feeling hopeful with the next steps in this case here.
She is, Sheba. They're also not buying the story that his death was accidental. They believe their son was murdered. Now, 8 years later, along with the Lowndes County Sheriff, they'll be able to view evidence in the case with their own eyes. So, as we mentioned, the 17-year-old's body was found rolled up in a gym mat. This was in January of 2013 inside the Lowndes County High School. Now, the initial investigation concluded that Johnson accidentally slipped and fell while his family exhumed their son's body twice for independent autopsies that showed blunt force trauma as the cause of death. It also showed some of Johnson's organs were missing. Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk says 2 years ago his office requested documents and they were finally just granted access to 17 boxes of paperwork and hard drives to review. Activist Marcus Coleman has worked with Kendrick's family the entire time to get justice. He says this is a step in the right direction.
It took us 8 years and 2 months. Those 17 boxes are in Lowndes County for a reason.
I want to start fresh with it and look at it all the way through. I think the community deserves it.
No. And Sheriff Polk expects this investigation to take about 6 months. He also says they'll go back and re-interview those who are connected to the case.
On January 26, 2022, after 15 months, Polk announced that he had closed his investigation and that no evidence of any criminal activity had been found. For those of you playing the home game, that makes 5 investigations that have reached the same conclusion.
The Valdosta teen found dead in a rolled-up gym mat at Lowndes High School in 2013. Today, his family speaking out one day after the local sheriff's office released a synopsis saying his death was an accident.
Johnson's family is accusing the Lowndes County Sheriff of lying and trying to cover up their son's death. Savannah Kelly is joining us live outside the Valdosta courthouse right now, where the Johnson family was protesting earlier today. Savannah?
While the Johnson family said that they don't believe anything in the sheriff's report, they say their son was murdered. Family members of Kendrick Johnson were here outside the courthouse for nearly 5 hours today, chanting and holding signs. 9 years after Kendrick Johnson's death, his family is still fighting for answers, protesting outside the Valdosta courthouse today after the Lowndes County Sheriff concluded there was no foul play. In a press conference today, Kendrick's father, Kenneth Johnson, called Sheriff Ashley Polk a liar.
They are not capable of telling the truth of what happened to our peoples.
Polk released a synopsis of an investigation from the federal government yesterday.
The documents I've read and the things, the investigation I've seen, I feel 100% sure there was no foul play.
Kendrick was last seen alive in 2013 at Lowndes High School. The next morning, his body was found head down inside a rolled-up gym mat.
It's a terrible accident, in my opinion.
But the Johnson family believes their son was murdered.
We want the truth to be told.
Even after nearly a decade of fighting, Kenneth Johnson says he's not giving up.
And I will fight as long as I have to uncover what exactly happened to Kendrick Johnson.
In response to the Johnson family's accusations, Sheriff Polk said although he feels for their loss, he was only reporting the facts and that investigations by several organizations, including the FBI and Department of Justice, all found there was no evidence to suggest that Kendrick was murdered. Live in Valdosta, Savannah Kelly, WCTV Eyewitness News.
Jackie Johnson said once again that she didn't agree with the sheriff's assertion that KJ had died in a freak accident, and she pointed out that there were errors in the sheriff's report. That same day, Sheriff Polk released a statement that he was offering a $500,000 reward for any information that would lead to an arrest in the murder of KJ Johnson. He stated that KJ Johnson's parents have accused him of lying and continue to claim their son was murdered. He said, quote, "Because of these statements, I am personally, with my own funds, offering a reward of $500,000 to anyone that comes forward with information that results in the arrest and conviction of a person for the alleged murder of KJ Johnson at Lowndes High School."
And I put out a $500,000 reward myself, my own money. I felt like if you never bring closure to any case, there's always questions, that people are going to have, or rumors and things like that. But I felt like if you put up $500,000 of your own money, people know you mean what you say for sure.
On November 22, 2022, the Bells filed a lawsuit against Jason Pollock and his distribution company alleging libel and slander for his film Finding Kendrick Johnson. If you have not seen the documentary, I recommend watching it while you wait for our next episode. We will have a link to the webpage that will show where it is currently streaming in your area in the show notes, and it is available for rental or purchase on YouTube. On January 10, 2023, the Johnson family held a memorial for the 10-year anniversary of the death of Kendrick Johnson.
The family of Kendrick Johnson is honoring and remembering him today, which marks 10 years since Kendrick died. He was found rolled up in a gym mat at Lowndes High School the next day. Instead of calling today an anniversary, the Johnsons call it his angelversary to commemorate the day he became their angel. WALB News 10's Mackenzie Petrie is live now at KJ's burial site with the family as they wrap up their final event in remembering his life. And Mackenzie, how is the prayer vigil and balloon release going?
Well, you guys, if I may say, the emotions are really high right now. As you can see behind me, some of Kendrick Johnson's family has started to show up to honor and remember the life of Kendrick Johnson. I spoke with his mother a little bit earlier, and she tells me nothing can stop her from celebrating her son's life each and every year.
My life is not the same. It will never be the same. It has changed me drastically. I would have never thought in a million years that I would be a mother of a murdered child. Look at life so differently in another set of eyes now. Like 2013, my life stopped and restarted.
They haven't released the balloons just yet, but if you stay tuned to WALB News 10 at 5, I will be live with the Johnson family again, and hopefully we can catch it then. Reporting live in Valdosta, Mackenzie Petrie, WALB, your hometown news source.
In September of 2023, the Johnsons filed their largest lawsuit to date, a $1 billion lawsuit against the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office and the GBI, alleging they are in cahoots in an ongoing cover-up of the murder of KJ Johnson. Half of this lawsuit is specifically targeted against Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk.
A family fed up with pleading with federal investigators. They believe their teenage son's murder was covered up. Tonight, they're asking their pleas to the top. I'm Alan Devlin.
And I'm Tracy Hutchins. Well, tonight it has been more than a decade since 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson was found dead inside of a gym mat at his high school in South Georgia. His death was ruled an accident, but questions, conflicting autopsies, and investigations brought the family to this major move tonight.
Atlanta News First reporter Brittany Ford is live at 5 at the federal courthouse downtown. So, Brittany, this family does not believe their son's death was an accident, and now they are taking action.
Well, Alan, yeah, and that's why the Johnson family has filed a new $1 billion lawsuit here today, one of their latest efforts in their continued search for answers. And you could take a look at some video. This was the family that gathered in front of the courthouse here just hours ago. Johnson's parents believe their son's death was racially motivated and is being covered up. Now, the defendants listed in this case, the GBI and the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, the complaint alleges inconsistencies in the sheriff's investigation completed last year, specifically related to the medical examiner's testimony.
What the Johnsons found was that there was
materially false information in that synopsis that could have only come from the medical examiner who invented this narrative. And we say invented because there's no evidence to support it.
Now, the family has filed several lawsuits over the years that have all been dismissed. The defendants now have 21 days to respond. Reporting live in downtown Atlanta, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
That brings us up to date on the KJ Johnson case from the perspective of the public. In our upcoming episodes, we will share our investigation into what was going on behind the scenes as we tried to determine what really happened to Kendrick Johnson on that fateful day. If you would like access to all of our materials and follow along with us, we have our entire case file available on Patreon at www.patreon.com/evileyes-podcast. There are multiple tiers available for every kind of at-home investigator, and our public Patreon feed contains plenty of content discussed in this series for anyone who's short on funds in these tough times. As you proceed through the series, we want to remind you that a young man lost his life, and we do not encourage or support harassment or bullying of any kind towards anyone we have mentioned or are going to mention. With that in mind, we'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, or YouTube, or email us at evilliespodcast@manslaughtermedia.com. On December 19th, 2013, the following article appeared in the Valdosta Daily Times. A message from KJ Johnson's parents. Share our son's story.
KJ is our son, and if we don't fight for KJ, who will? If we never even opened our mouths and said, no, we're not going to let this happen like this. It would have just been another child dead if nobody would have ever said anything. We knew we had to step up and fight for KJ, and that's what we've done, and we don't even think about it. KJ's our son, and we've got to push, 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 because we loved KJ just as much as anyone else loves their child.
Thank you so much for listening. Now that you have the story from the perspective of the public in the years following the death of Kendrick Johnson, it's time to explore what the public wasn't being told. In the next episode of The Boy in the Mat, we will be discussing in greater detail the investigations conducted by the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the SCLC, the NAACP, and the Department of Justice. We will also be releasing a bonus episode ahead of the next episode regarding the racial aspects of this case and providing a brief historical education on Valdosta, Georgia, and beyond, for the purpose of context before we get further into our investigation. While it is not necessary to listen to get the whole story, it certainly may aid you in understanding the nuances surrounding the controversy. In our own efforts to educate ourselves and broaden our scope, we learned a lot and decided to take that research and put it into a bonus episode for the series. Until next time.